because of this slave trade, and because they're prospering very much underneath getting guns and all the nice trade items from South Carolina. In January 1704, the Muskogee invade the Appalachia again. They torture 41 Appalachia by burning out their eyes, ears, and tongues. They had successfully captured 400 of those Appalachia. So here you see South Carolina has made inroads into the creeks, and now they are attacking Spanish Appalachia. In May 1704, as a matter of fact, that was January 1704. May 1704, South Carolina Governor James Moore will accompany the lower creeks, and they will take as many as 4,000 Appalachia as slave. In 1704, the Chickasaws begin raiding again the northern towns of the Choctaw Nation, which is the seat of the Oklatanap or the Oklaahia. But long story short, this is going to become important later on as we talk about setting into motion the warfare between the northern tribal towns of the Choctaws and the Chickasaws. In February 1705, the Cherokees issued claims against the governor, stating that Governor Moore of South Carolina has set other Indian tribes to assault, kill, and destroy, and take as many of Indians as possible as they could to be sold into slavery. The Cherokees are becoming alarmed with the activities of South Carolina. In September 1705, Muskogean warriors joined the South Carolina raids against the Choctaw. The Alabama, Arbicas, and Tallapoosa, as well as the Uchi or the Uchis, who were given guns. 3,000 of the Muskogee warriors will help in the invasion on the eastern front of the Choctaw Nation. They will take several hundred slaves, but they will suffer severe casualties as a result. In 1707, the Commons House, because of this, takes steps to regulate the trade, and they created the Commission of Indian Trade, where they said that number one, they outlawed liquor being sold by traders, by the South Carolinian Indian traders, and then they also said that no Indians could be enslaved because of debt anymore. But they did not address the issue of the just war of national tribe against national tribe. So by January 1708, there's 1,400 Native American slaves in Charleston. That means there's a bunch of Choctaws, there's a bunch of Appalachia, there's a bunch of tribes that have been taken slaves. By June 1708, South Carolina governor mentions casually that the South Carolinian traders were beginning to use the Appalachia as beasts of burden. By May 1710, because of the Uchi and the Uchis movement against the Choctaw, their entire debt is eliminated. Their debt of 500 pounds of bullets, 200 pounds of powder, etc. By 1711, the Yamasee debt, however, has exploded to 100,000 deerskin. This is going to predict what's going to happen in the future. North Carolina faces a serious opposition from the Tuscarora. It's known as the Tuscarora War. This becomes very important because the Tuscarora will become part of the Six Nations, the Senecas, the Cayugas, the Onondagas. And during the same time, the Yamasee will step up their attacks on the Appalachia as well. But by May 1712, a South Carolinian trader who's married to a Yamasee woman who's pregnant, he will beat her to death. In the process, her mother and her sister, who intervene, also are severely beaten. Now, the reason this is important is because the two women, the sister and the mother, are also wives of the chiefs of the Yamasee, of the Mikos. So we're starting to see some disturbing signs that are going to predict what's going to happen next. In May 1713, South Carolina gets Tugaloo, one of the Cherokee lower towns, to begin attacking and seeking slaves. In June 1714, the English, with the Alabama, Chickasaws, Tallapoosas, the Muskogees, invade the Choctaw Nation again. trying to force them to accept trade relations. This is, as you can guess, is going to set the Choctaws into a mode of wanting to fight even more. In November 1714, the Cherokee raid the Uchi. Now, at this time, the Uchi are not part of the Muskogean Confederacy. So we're starting to see incursions from Georgia and northern Georgia into some of the tribal area zones that belong to the Creeks. March 1715, the traders began demanding payments from the Creeks. They're saying, and so they'd forgiven the debt before. Now they're saying, hey, you owe us some money. It's either deer skins or it's slaves. Essentially, they're giving them a threat. By April 1715, the South Carolina trader, Mr. Wright, says to the Yamasee in their council, he said the white men were going to come and fetch them in one night, and that they would hang 4 of their chiefs and take the rest of them, all of them, for slaves, and that he would send all of them out of the country. That means he was going to send them to the Caribbean. And he said that the men of the Yamasee were like women, and he showed his hand one to the other, and what he said essentially vexed the warriors. And this is what starts the war is on now. And the Yamasee, in their within the first week, the Yamasee informed the other tribes, and 90 South Carolina traders are executed by all the tribes: Choctaws, Cherokees, Creeks, and the Yamasee. By May 1715, the Yamasee began reaching out to Spain. Spain gladly gives them guns. In July 1715, the Cherokee, Choctaw, and Upper Creeks, who had been delayed, enter the war. This becomes the bloodiest war in America's history at this time, even bloodier than the Pequot War. Now, what's the importance of the slave issues? Why this forecasts what's going to happen in the future? Specifically, the Choctaws' retaliatory wars against the Chickasaws under Chief Sholoshoma of the Ocklatanap will continue at such an aggressive rate that the Choctaw-Chickasaw Wars forced some of the Chickasaw towns to seek protection among the Cherokee. In addition, the Cherokee and Creeks will begin stepping up their fight against each other. So what we're saying is it's a continuation of what was set in place by slaving. Well, where this leads to is that the Cherokees, some of them will become so aggressive that by the time of the Cherokee-Anglo War of 1716, it will intensify to such a point that one village was attacked, and John C. Calhoun's grandmother would be killed during that raid. And another young warrior in this war will become famous. His name is Dragon Canoe. This is predicting what's going to happen in the future. Specifically, as we know, John C. Calhoun creates the Bureau of Indian Affairs in the Department of War, and he also writes the Indian Removal Act. Oh, and he was very staunch pro-slave. And so as a result of this, the Cherokee, Muskogee, and Choctaw will join Great Britain during the Revolutionary War, a large portion of them. The Choctaws will defend Pensacola against Spain, and as a result, 2 important leaders will come out of that war, the Revolutionary War for tribes. One being the Cherokee Dragon Canoe will ascend, as well as the Muskogee McGillivray will become a prominent chief. Slavery had its consequences long before the nation fought its Civil War.